Here we go. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Welcome to our series. This session, we're going to be discussing about the inclusivity, awareness, and community at St. Mary's. And today I have my dear colleague, Legacy Lee, Director of our Intercultural Center. He's going to go ahead and share a lot of what the Intercultural Center is all about here at St. Mary's. So here I go. I'm going to pass it on to you, Legacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. And welcome everybody. Thanks for being here. I'm going to share my screen and go through a really quick PowerPoint just to kind of highlight a lot of what we do in the center. So let me just get that set up. All right. Everybody can see that? All right. So welcome everyone. My name is Legacy Lee, he, him, his. I'm the director of the Intercultural Center at St. Mary's College. And what you see here is a Zoom shot. You're probably all familiar with Zoom over this past year or two. This was a staff meeting from this past year for my IC staff. So myself, my assistant director, and 5 students. We had a small team this year, just figuring out how to do virtual programming. And we felt really successful, but we're really excited to be able to open and do things in person next year. And so hopefully we'll be able to do most of our traditional programming. Quickly, this is just the staff that we had. You can see the kind of roles we have. So besides our professional staff, we have administrative assistant, we have social justice advocates, we have students who do social media for us and graphic design. And this year we'll have a team of 8 students, so it'll be a little bit larger than this past year. The mission of the IC is really to create a safe and supporting environment. We want to create inclusive community, and we're really a co-curricular space. So hopefully you're learning in the classroom all kinds of concepts, theories, and ideas that are really stimulating your mind. And then you're able to come to other spaces like ours and put that into practice, right? And do different workshops, programs, retreats, and be a part of a space where you can think critically about a lot of these ideas and push forward social justice in our campus. So you can see some of our goals. These are things that we hope for in our programming, that we're fostering cultural competency. We're creating a safe space for people to really explore not only kind of identities that they're always thinking about, but even kind of identities that are evolving or the ones they might not be always aware of. We want to empower historically underrepresented and marginalized groups. We support student leaders in many different forms in our space. So a lot of students interact with our space even if they don't directly work with us. And we try to build connections for the whole community to kind of value diversity in all its forms. So here's some fun pictures from a couple of years ago showing students in our space and some other spaces, some of our programs and workshops. What you see on the kind of sides are posters, the DNA testing, the Hogwarts Friday, the vegan shift. These are all programs put on by our students. One of the cool things about our space is we're a really student-run space. So as professional staff, we're here to support and guide students, but we do not tell them what programming to do. So our student staff really gets to decide what are they passionate about, what are the topics that are really hot right now in social justice and in the world and the community, and we do programs around that. As you can see, we have a lot of fun, and we traditionally have a lot of food as well at our programs. What are the reasons to check out the IC? Well, there's a lot of them. So if you want to explore aspects of yourself and your multiple social identities, that's a great place to come and do that in a really safe and fun way. We want to connect with other students and leaders on campus. We are a hub. We're a place where students can hang out. You can eat your lunch in there. You can study, use computers in our space, even use some of our office supplies. So we're a comfortable space with couches, beanbag chairs, and stuff like that for folks to hang out. It's a great place to meet other students. You want to be an intentional, inclusive student leader. So whether you work for us or not, you want to work on your student leadership. You really want to work on your cultural competency. This is a space to do that. You want to grow and challenge yourself, right? That's kind of what college is all about. So if you're that kind of person that's ready to kind of challenge yourself and not just come in and I always tell students, if you're going to leave college with the same mindset you came in with, the same knowledge, there's no reason to pay all that money to go to college, right? You're here to learn and grow and to think differently. And so you want to take those challenges and push yourself. And to that point, you're ready to expand your awareness and get outside of your comfort zone. Right? One of the great things about college is starting to learn about people and places that are different than you, things you didn't know, and push yourself. And so when you feel a little bit uncomfortable, that's the place where you're learning. It's called your learning edge. And that's what you really want to do. And the IC fosters that space very well. If you're excited to meet and learn from people with different cultures and backgrounds. So if you want to just kind of expand your circle and get to know more about people around you, some people come to St. Mary's and it's way more diverse than their high school. Some people come to St. Mary's and it's way less diverse than their high school. And so, trying to explore that and figure out kind of where's your place. If you're excited about finding a community of support, we are a place to support you in any way, whether that's, hey, I want to do a petition to the school to get a statue removed, something that happened recently at St. Mary's, whether it's, I want to kind of figure out how to deal with a conflict in a classroom, or I need to know what kind of faculty to take classes from that will support me in my identities. If you like free food and having fun, we are the place to be. A lot of fun. All ideas are welcome. The IC is for everyone on campus. It's not for like a certain group of people. So it's for everyone, and your money that you pay contributes to our programming anyway. So come take advantage of it. All right. So here's some fun pictures from some of our programs the last couple of years. We do a lot of cool things. So our diversity dance, that's one thing I'll just be honest with this group. We're not sure yet about the protocols in the fall if we've got to offer this. We couldn't have it this past year. Traditionally, this is a dance that's put on by our diversity organizations, and it's just a big fun time up in the Soda Center for people to kind of listen to different music and celebrate together. We have a retreat in the fall. We bring students that work with us. We bring diversity organization council students. We bring cultural night representatives. We've traditionally gone away. We might be on campus this year, but either way, it's like a whole weekend of learning, of leadership skills, fun team builders, campfire and all that kind of fun stuff, right? We have cultural nights. We have 6 cultural nights in the spring. Those are spaces where different marginalized groups are able to put forward their, whether it's like song, dance, poetry, they put on a whole show. Usually there's a food reception beforehand, and it's an opportunity for the whole campus to come together and celebrate a culture that often isn't as visible as they would like to be on campus. Our cultural graduate celebrations are spaces where we celebrate 4 different groups on campus and give them an opportunity to really celebrate and thank their mentors and the people that help support them along the way. This year, if you were able to check out the St. Mary's commencement website, we had Cultural Grad website, and you can see those students there. So many different people participated in that. First year experiences, we try to work with the residence halls to create different opportunities for first year students to get involved, because we know that oftentimes you're a little bit afraid sometimes the first year student, how do I go in? How do I step through that door of that building? And we want to make sure sometimes that we come to you, or we make it really easy for you to come to us and kind of get those experiences, meet other students, and find your way. So we can be a great place to start your journey at St. Mary's too, and figure out, where do you want to go? Where do you want to get involved? And our Diversity Organization Council, this year we have 12 diversity orgs. So there are different organizations on campus that are already registered orgs, and their mission has something to do with diversity or inclusion. And so we take those organizations and we work with representatives together, make sure they do collaborative events throughout the year, and just support those clubs. And there's so many clubs that St. Mary's to get involved in, but if you are involved with one of those clubs, then you'll probably be involved with the IC as well. And then here's a little bit more of some of the programs we do. Invest are workshops that we do on social justice topics. So you saw some of the one when you saw the DNA poster, but we've had a lot of them. This past year, we had one on accessibility and distance learning, because obviously that was really important at this time, and our students really cared about that, and they wanted to push faculty to really be, being inclusive to students and their needs. Fact Chats is an awesome program. We're 3 years into that. I actually helped create that program, and it's basically like a mini TED Talk where we bring faculty who do social justice related research into our space. We invite the entire campus, students, staff, and faculty to come, and we listen to about a 30-minute kind of brief talk about their research, and we have like a Q&A, just a really relaxed, chill time to kind of see your faculty in a different light and get to know what they do. Another program I want to highlight under the inclusive community bullet here is Collective Hour. That's a program we just started this past year, and it brings people, it's affinity-based storytelling space. So we have different topics every year based on our students' identities. This year we had one for queer experiences, we had one for first-gen Americans, we had Latinx womanhood, we had one around sustainability. And so we have these spaces where students can come together around certain either identities or experiences and talk and share and storytell and build support in that way. And then Feel Good Fridays, you'll definitely be hearing about those when you come to campus. We do them the first Friday of every month. There are one that's total program that's not social justice related. It's just a fun social program. We have sometimes art projects, sometimes we always have raffles with prizes. We have food. Sometimes we have other kind of activities and games, and we always have music. And so we really try to have that on that Friday afternoon once a month, just to kind of loosen people up, bring people in, meet other people, and create a fun space on campus. And we collaborate with the DocOrgs for that program. So I wanted to keep it brief today so we can move to questions, because that's always more interesting, I think. But I did want to share that our website's the first stop. I definitely would want to tell you, go to the website, check out what we're doing. It's obviously, always changing. So right now, A lot of programs have obviously ended as our students just graduated and the year has ended, but you'll see it, going to next year, that will be updated regularly. Also, our Facebook, we definitely use it. It's a little more used by our alumni though. Our Instagram has really been hitting this year. Our student social media strategist was awesome and putting up a ton of content. So I hope y'all will follow us. And definitely have an easy texting service as well. And then also our IC card, you can check on this link. I'll actually hit you up with a little document that will give you this in a second. And you can find out what we're doing on our card, or you can receive our biweekly newsletter. So we send out a newsletter through MailChimp every 2 weeks, and it talks about what we're doing. We also highlight a lot of other departments on campus, what they're doing, like our Gale Pantry or things like that happening. So we want to make sure that students have a lot of knowledge about ways to get involved, ways that they can make a difference on our campus and even in the surrounding community. Awesome. So I'm going to stop the share. I kept that brief on purpose so I could open it up to questions and just talk more fluidly with what you all wanted to say. So let's open it up now, and I can talk kind of in depth about things that come up as they come up. All right.
Awesome. Thank you for that presentation. Legacy, if any folks have any questions, feel free to submit them through the chat. I did have a question that maybe some students might be wondering. So in regards to the multiple events that are hosted through the center, are there any extra fees that students would have to kind of worry about if they are members or non-members or just want to kind of attend these events? Like, what's kind of the expectation in regards to that?
Yeah, the only fee at all is for our cultural graduate celebrations. This year, because we didn't do them in person, we actually covered the cost of the sashes for people. And I don't know if we're going to continue that tradition, but in the past, students have had to pay for either part or all of their sash. So that's the only thing. All of our programs are always free. They're open to everyone. The only exception, of course, for who's invited is if it's like an affinity space. So sometime, if it's like a queer experience space and that's not your community, that's not really a space for you, but there's plenty of other spaces. But there's no costs associated with any of that. And in fact, there's oftentimes a lot of like perks. We give out a ton of like raffle prizes and food. And so oftentimes you can really kind of benefit in other ways as well by being involved with us. And we collaborate with a lot of departments. So if you're also interested in like the Center for Women and Gender Equity, the High Potential Program, if you're involved with them, Mission and Ministry, SILSA, Student Disability Services. There's a lot of, and some other offices I'm not remembering in the moment, but we collaborate. So there's a great way to also meet student leaders and staff from those other offices if you're interested in getting involved in other spaces as well.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Desiree had a question. So her question is, what are some of the examples where students have been able to change curriculum or address social justice issues from the IC?
Yeah, so it depends on what you mean by how you address. So there's kind of two levels, right? So in our level, we're an educational space. And so we're a space where students, bring up topics. There's no bad questions. There's no, we're not necessarily even always finding answers. In fact, in a lot of our programs, we say we want to leave with more questions than answers because we're trying to educate people on different topics and we're all learning. Our students are not experts either, our student leaders, and they're learning along with people. However, what I will say is that the students who get involved with us in many ways are also the student activists on campus. So while our office is not an activist space in that we can't really, as the spaces within the institution, we can't say like, hey, we want to go out there and change that. I mean, I'm on committees that are trying to do that work, but when students say they want to protest, we're often the people that say, okay, well, we're not necessarily going to like lead the protest because that's a student movement, but we will help you think about how do you want to do that effectively? What might be the smart ways to do that? So oftentimes my students are the ones that are leading protests, leading activist movement on campus and trying to get involved. And then also sometimes they're involved in student groups that work with committees. So this past year, I was the staff co-chair of the Black Lives Matter Committee. I'm also on the College Committee for Inclusive Excellence and the Bias Incidents Committee. And I also lead trainings for diversity for staff and faculty. And so there's also student groups that are either on that, or students that are on those committees, or their groups are working with those committees. And so a lot of times, we're trying to fulfill certain demands that students have. Students brought a Black psychologist on the campus this year. The Black community was really requesting that. They've worked to get certain other demands through campus around kind of promises that were made around inclusivity or social justice. And so there's a new website up that has all that information and the kind of progress. We're tracking the progress of those demands. So students are very much involved with that, not necessarily because they work with us or through the IC, but usually in relationship to the organizations we're involved with and the students that we support, right? So we're definitely a space if you want to get involved or you have some ideas on, or you're like, hey, this is just not really cool. Something's going on campus I'm not cool with. We'd be a great place to come talk to, and we could direct you to the resources or help support you along that journey.
Amazing, thank you for that. Elena had this question. Can you speak a little bit more on the retreats and I guess like a little bit more details on that and what students can expect in regards to the retreats?
Yeah, so we do one retreat in the fall. It's in October. This year it'll be the first week of October. And it's primarily for 3 groups of students. It's for our own student staff. It's for representatives from the 12 diversity organizations. And it's for students who signed up to be a part of the Cultural Night exec team. So those Cultural Nights, those 6 teams, are run by students who basically interview to be the executive team. They do get a stipend, so they actually get paid about $200-300 for those roles. So it's like, it's not a full job, but it's like a commitment for the year to plan. It's a lot of work. And then they work about usually between 4 and 6 students create those cultural nights, and they work all year until they put them on in the spring. And they obviously get a much larger cast, anywhere from 10 to 60 students involved in those as running the actual cast and the sets. But a select group of those students will come on the retreat with us. And then sometime we have reserved in the past, it doesn't happen every year, but if we have room, we reserve space sometime for some first-year students just to attend the retreat. So if you're a first-year student that's maybe not in one of those 3 spaces, but you're just super jazzed about social justice, you're like, I'm looking for my space, then that might be a great way to do it because it's kind of early in your college career. You can kind of find, your spaces. And I also, of course, would invite those students to check out during the involvement fair, which is usually the second weekend of the semester, that's put on by Student Involvement and Leadership. All the student organizations, all of them, not just the doc orgs, but all of them will be available and have tables. We'll be out there as well. And that's where you can really just find out, like, where do I want to get involved and start signing up for emails and all those kind of things. Yeah. Oh, I should say more. You want to hear more about the retreat. Sorry. So the second part of your question is, it has a lot of like traditional retreat elements. We have a s'mores campfire. We'll do like a fun talent show, talent/no talent show, because you don't have to have talent to participate. And we also, we'll, eat together and do team builders and icebreakers and all that. And then the other element that's more kind of social justice related is we usually have a theme, and we're focused on those 3 different groups of students I mentioned. How are we going to support them in the work they're doing this year, right? So making sure the IC staff is kind of prepared. It's kind of continuation of our training we do in August. And then also the cultural night teams are starting to think about their themes and what do they want to be their impact this year for cultural nights. And the doc orgs, of course, have their own agendas based on their clubs. And so helping them think about like working together, collaborating, and putting on events for campus. So we usually have sessions for all those groups along the way. So I think it's probably going to end up being on campus this year, but I think it'll still be a ton of fun. I mean, I'm a camper, so I like going out in the woods and doing all that, but some students don't like it. So those students will probably be happier that we're on campus, but it's looking like that. But we'll still be able to do a lot of those traditional elements. And I think that'll still be fun. Great question.
Awesome. One last question. Lauren had this question. So she noticed that it says first year experience. One of the slides said that. What does that include exactly?
Yeah, so it kind of changes year to year. So we used to have a program, I didn't put it on here because it doesn't exist anymore, but we used to have a program that was originally called Connect, and then it was called Hall Hangout. And it was something that happened in the first year halls and really did kind of an initial kind of diversity, social justice, almost kind of training, workshops, reflection activities for students. I mean, I loved it. I ran it for many years, but unfortunately, it was really hard to get students to attend. Like we would get a small group, the students who would go on to be leaders on campus, but some of this work is really vital for every student, and we couldn't get kind of the students who would not show up tonight to this program. Those students who are not here tonight, they might not show up to that, and so we struggled for the numbers. So that program doesn't exist anymore, but we work very closely with the first year RAs and the professional staff that oversee them from residential experience. And the point of that is to find different ways. So I'm not sure exactly what that will look like this year, but I can guarantee you there'll be something, and that the RAs will be well versed in like what we're doing, Oftentimes RAs have a quota for programs they have to do, and one of those usually could be to bring students to one of our programs. And so we try to like make sure that we reach first year students before, they get a whole year in and they say, I've been in my room the whole time, I haven't been involved, right? Like that's the saddest statement for me to hear. I want students to be out there, whether you connect with us or another space, I want you to find your place on campus or your places. And I really want to help, kind of be that conveyor for you to get to that space. So that's what we try to do, is work with the first years as much as we can. So unsure what that will look like this year, Lauren, but there will be definitely something, and your RAs should be aware of kind of what the IC is all about.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Legacy, for providing all this information to our students. Thank you all so much for submitting those questions to us. So we're going to move on forward to our raffle. So I'm going to go ahead and start that. So how that's going to run is I'm going to provide you guys with a question, and whoever submits that answer first will win. So is everyone ready? We're all good?
Challenge.
Yeah. So here we go. Everyone ready to go. Get those fingers ready. So here you go. The question is, who is a 2-time Oscar-winning alumni of SMC? Type it in the chat.
They got to spell it right?
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one. Let's see who's got that. Ooh, Nicholas. We got a winner. Nicholas, great job. I know that's a really tough name to get under the belt, right? To know exactly how to type that and all. But congrats, Nicholas. We will be sending you over your prize via mail. So be on the lookout for that.
Jenny,
and
Jenny, can I do one more thing before you move on? Because I know you're going to close up.
Yeah.
I know you sent me the questions that students had submitted ahead of time, and I realized there's one that kind of didn't get answered. Do you mind if I answer the question?
Of course, go ahead.
So I think it was from Lily. I don't know if Lily's here, but how does the SMC community embrace inclusivity was the question. I think it was a really good question that you asked. And so I just wanted to, I think I'm known for being pretty direct and honest with students. And I'll say that if you're a person that's coming to St. Mary's looking for a place that's really working on social justice and inclusion and building that type of community, then I think you came to the right place. And I think the IC is a place to get involved. But I will say that not everybody's on that same board, right? Like not everyone is here for that reason, which is fine. But, so I would just want to be honest with that answer, that I think it's kind of a little bit all over the place, right? There's people who really social justice and service is why they came to a place like St. Mary's, and they want to leave and serve the world better. And they'll find many avenues to do that. And then there's, some people in between that we're really trying to catch who kind of don't know what social justice is. And that's really what, if you're here today and you're thinking, I don't know, I would say walk through our doors, talk to our staff, and try out a few of our programs. And I think you'll figure that out for yourself. And then the reality is there's some students who will never come in our door, and that's just true. And so, as you come in, expect that those conversations with students are going to be all over the place. And I hope that none of you are persuaded by peer pressure to move in any direction you don't want to move, and follow your own hearts and instincts around what you want to look into. Because many students, I'll just end with this, many students, in fact, have come to the IC too late. And they've told me, oh, I wish I discovered this place before my senior year or my junior year. Many students who want to work for us, they say it's too late, now, or something like that. So just make sure that you check out as many things on campus early on and make your own decisions on what's right for you. And you'll kind of find your space. Your best friend isn't always your best friend on day one of college, right? Who you end with college might be someone you find along the way. So just wanted to put that little anecdote in, and thank you all for the great questions.
Thank you so much, Legacy, for that. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I just wanted to remind you all that there are going to be a lot more sections and segments of these within the next couple of weeks. So be on the lookout for that. If you haven't registered for some of these sessions, feel free to register. There are a lot of really good topics coming up. So feel free to register to those. There's financial aid planning that is coming up. So a lot of really good sessions for you all. So feel free to register to those as soon as you can if you haven't yet. And thank you all so much for taking the time today to join us. Thank you again. Thank you, Legacy Lee. Thank you so much for your time.
And I dropped our handout there in the chat, so you can download that and stay in contact.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, you got that. Feel free to download that, guys. And thank you again for your time. We'll see you then.